time in the market beats timing the market. I think if you're just waiting for a perfect moment, it will pass you and you will not even realize it until it's too late.
Welcome to an interview episode of Tech in the Arts, brought to you by the Arts Management and Technology Lab at Carnegie Mellon University. My name is Victoria Sprowls, the podcast producer.
And I'm Andrew Wolverton, the Technology and Interactive Content Manager.
And today we're bringing you two interviews about the potential for NFTs in the future of theater and film. First, I'll sit down with Tom Kalnas, a contributor to the Arts Management and Technology Lab, to discuss NFTs as a fundraising tool in the media landscape. Then, Andrew will interview Eric Neal of Third Act, a premier NFT platform for theater and Broadway. Thank you for being here.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you, Victoria.
Yeah. So in looking into some of your research before you came in today, I came across an interesting phrase, distribution waterfall. So tell us about the distribution waterfall of revenue in regards to film and how it affects independent film production companies differently than larger companies.
Yes. Well, Victoria, as you know, it takes a long time for a film to turn a profit, right? It takes like 1 to 3 years for a film to become profitable. And of course, these films range in budget size. You have an independent film like Moonlight by A24, which had a budget of like $1.5 million. On the other end of the spectrum, you have Disney's Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides, which cost $378.5 million. Because of this, they have to do a lot of front loading when it comes to investments. So they need a lot of initial investments. So the distribution waterfall, to answer your question, tells us how an individual film will eventually repay those initial investors once that film goes to market and starts generating profit.
How do you see NFTs helping to increase that profitability?
A few different ways. In the past, production studios had to rely on what they call a collective arts management agreement, or a CAMA, which is, it's just an entity like a third-party accounting entity or a bank that collects the revenue from the market from a feature film and kind of distributes the revenue down the waterfall. But with NFTs, studios can now design NFTs that work as their own accounting vehicles for investors. Through smart contracts, the distribution waterfall can be programmed into an NFT. So if a film is profitable, NFT investors would automatically receive a return on investment plus interest plus royalty payments sent directly to their virtual wallets. This eliminates the need for a third-party collective arts management agreement, which means that you don't have to pay a third party extra money. It means you get to save money on the back end.
Right, so instead of having like an accounting firm do this, instead it would just all be digitalized through an NFT, and it would just automatically happen once a film reaches a certain threshold of profit.
Right. If I was an investor and I bought an NFT, I would know that in that smart contract, that money would be programmed back to me once that film hits the market.
It kind of solves the problem of, not knowing whether or not you ever will actually get your money, even if you did get a return, maybe like the studio's being stingy, this and that. This kind of solves that problem.
Right. Additionally, an indie production company can sell NFTs on the open market and crowdsource investors from all around the world. This way, technically, anyone could become an investor in a Hollywood movie. That's
interesting. I know that bowing down to fans' demands can be an issue in the entertainment field. Do you think that allowing the masses to invest in a movie through buying an NFT will make production companies or directors beholden to the fans / regular people that have invested in the film?
Yeah, to an extent, absolutely. I mean, crowdsourcing is becoming more popular, right? And companies collect more data on their audiences. So production companies are developing a very exact understanding of what their audience wants, like exactly. And because of that, studios won't have to rely on the opinions of these veteran filmmakers who think that they really know what everybody wants, where in actuality the data says, something different. So maybe if a director is working with like an established franchise, say like if a director is working with Marvel, then they might not have the same amount of leeway as a creative director to make these executive decisions, right? They might have to follow the data, instead. But then again, the reason that fans love artists is because of their sense of independence. And I find it hard to believe that like anybody will come up to Steven Soderbergh or Catherine Bigelow to change their direction style because because that's what the audience wants.
Right. They're not going to go up to, these directors and say, well, I invested in this movie and I do not like the ending and I would like my money back.
Exactly, because you invested in the movie because you believe in the artist.
And in their vision.
Exactly.
So in a way, it just gives more independent artists the power to follow their own artistic vision because the fans believe in them and want to invest in that.
Right. But on the flip side,
okay.
if you're an artist and you're not established, say you're like a no-name like me, you might not have the opportunity to express yourself and your individuality in the same way because you might have to conform to these new rules.
So what do you think NFTs are capable of improving in the entertainment field?
The entertainment industry relies heavily on merchandising to make money, right? Fans love to show their support to a certain show or franchise by buying a t-shirt, buying a hat. Well, NFTs are like the new version of that.
Okay.
So digital merchandise is easy to make, it's free to make, and if a studio is working with a famous actor with a large fan base, they can create and sell NFTs to commemorate the actor's role in their film.
So it's kind of like, would it be a little akin to like modern day GIFs? I like to look at GIFs of like people in movies. Oh, I could like buy that and that would be mine alone.
Imagine if there was a GIF that nobody else ever saw before, but it's like a secret GIF. And you were like, I love Kristen Stewart. I need this secret GIF. And I'm just going to buy it and I'm not going to show anybody. It's mine now.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And it's cool because in that sense, with a lot of merchandise today, it's like anybody can have the same thing as you. Like they could have the same shirt, they could have the same hat. But now it's kind of like a collector's item.
Yes. A great example of this actually is Quentin Tarantino, who just sold his original handwritten script of Pulp Fiction.
Like in real life, not as an NFT?
As NFTs. That's what he did.
Okay.
So he scanned every page of this handwritten script.
Okay.
And he said, okay, I'm going to sell scene 1 as an NFT and scene 5 as an NFT.
Wow. That's a really interesting, one, money-making scheme for him. And two, as someone who loves film, would be a really great item to have like in your collection if you are a collector. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's great. What are you most excited for about like the future of NFTs in film specifically?
In the future,
okay,
say 10 years down the road, when metaverse integration is kind of more popular than it is today, I think that these films that we know and love are going to be integrated into the metaverse fairly quickly. For instance, I had a thought the other day. I was like, I have a nephew and he loves Batman. And a few years from now, if my nephew is in the metaverse, I could buy him a Batman NFT, which allows him to dress up like Batman in the metaverse and go around and throw batarangs in the metaverse.
Interesting. Kind of like a Batman skin, like a video game skin?
Yeah, just like that.
Right. That's awesome. Well, thank you for being here today. I'm a little, you've kind of demystified the NFT process just a little bit.
Try to.
Yeah, I know it's a large topic and we didn't get to all of it today, but thank you for sharing your insights with us.
It's a pleasure, Victoria. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Next up, I speak with Eric Neal of Third Act. Third Act uses NFT technology to deliver theater's most memorable moments to fans around the globe. NFTs on Third Act are one-of-a-kind digital collectibles made in partnership with productions and personalities.
So Eric, thank you so much for joining us. And for those who don't know anything about Third Act and who you are and what you do, I'd love for you to kind of give an explanation to our audience.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Andrew. Third Act is theater's first NFT marketplace. We deal with digital collectibles and look to extend the story from the stage of theater into digital worlds.
So there are a lot of people out there that I feel like they don't quite know what an NFT is. And it's relatively new. And as we were just talking, it's become like the word of the year. So for those who are sort of new to this, what's the best way for them to understand that? Is there an analogy, something that they can really connect with this new digital collectible or network that we have?
Yeah, it's the most common question. It's not silly at all. I think it's new. It's going to be new for a long time for a lot of people. It seems to be rolling out like in waves. I think waves of people are getting introduced to it time over time, and it's going through age groups. The easiest way to think about it is it's simply a digital file that is unique unto itself. So it has, think of it like having a serial code or a barcode to it. The real power that I think is the ledger that it's associated with. So being on a public and decentralized public ledger is what really gives an NFT its value. So what that means is this digital asset is stored and recorded in a publicly accessible way in multiple places. So it's close to permanent, and it's transparent. So if it changes hands or if it's sold or traded in any fashion, that's recorded on this permanent public ledger that everybody has access to see.
Kind of like the Carfax reports that cars have. We can kind of see who's owned it, what's happened to it over time.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. It's if every NFT was a car and it had its own record, you could see who owned it and where they drove it and who they sold it to and how much. That's a great way to put it.
So I guess my thought is, how do you even create an NFT, something that's digital, for something that is inherently non-digital, such as the theater?
Yeah, I think that's why they're kind of really well suited, because as a theater goer or a theater fan, you're already really interested in an ephemeral product and experience. So to have something that's a little less tangible from the jump, being an NFT, I think there's some parallels there that work in our favor. You can go from, it's a hybrid between marketing and merchandise. So it can be the things that shows release before curtain opens to build hype and to get the name out in front of people and have people collecting and trading things. And it can also be the souvenir that you take home after the show, like a show program, or if you're getting the mug or the sweater. If there's a certain level of fandom with a show, people want everything to do with it. And this is the new frontier of merchandise that is going to have some future use cases that we're still all discovering together collectively. So I think that's kind of where you kind of put the use case for it right now. It's in this collectible, it's in this realm of super fandom where people can't get enough of it.
Kind of that practical use. I've seen a couple of instances where there have been NFTs for tickets, and also The Wrong Man, which was, I guess, has been dubbed now the first NFT musical. Yeah. So, I feel like with that, it becomes more than a collectible. So how do you see that building and growing into this world?
I mean, it's a great point. You're very well read on the subject. So we actually have, as a team, we huddled together and made a response article actually on our blog around Wrong Man and the musical form, or sorry, the form that they chose to use the NFT as. Because it was met with some controversy for sure. It was not all positive, but the beauty of the NFT is it is really a blank slate. It can really be whatever you want. It can be, the poster art. It can be the ticket to redeem at show. It can be the entire musical in an NFT. Our philosophy has been that the NFT should enhance the experience. It's not going to be the experience. That's not in our intention right now. A lot of our team comes from theatrical backgrounds. We love the theater. This is all around fueling more live stage and live theatrical productions. So we don't want to make a product that competes with seeing the live show. We want something that enhances and integrates into the theater going experience as a pre or post show commemorative item. To put an entire musical into an NFT is a completely different kind of product where there's a whole level of access that comes into question. It's very exclusive, and we try to push more accessible NFTs and accessible experiences through our NFTs.
Right. And I noticed that main feature NFTs you have is at Brian Stokes Mitchell. How exactly did you go about getting that NFT? Because there's a whole lot of rights that are involved in that, and obviously Brian Stokes has to sign off on that. So how does that work?
Yeah, for us, we have a really great partner that we worked with on that one, Atomic Focus Entertainment. We were working with them on a show with Brian. He was hosting a talk show called Crossovers Live that was streamed on Stellar Tickets. And as we were going through this project with them, we were building this platform, and it seemed like there was an opportunity here to, a window where we could publish a collection in his likeness. And yeah, we had to move fast on it. So it wasn't as much of it was less of a hard sell because we had a short window to get this done and make something great. And so we worked with our in-house NFT studio, which creates the creative assets themselves. And it was something that he had a lot of trust in us to produce and Atomic. And we knew that it was a long-term play. We figured this is going to be something that we want to repeat and do multiple times with other actors and get them involved and ultimately advocate for the actors in the industry to create a passive form of revenue for them in the long term.
So how many units did you sell of Brian Stokes Mitchell? How many did you offer, I guess I should say?
We only offered 3.
Three of them.
Yep.
And then I know there were like different models of them or different positions, I guess, that he had. So there was only like one of each that one person was able to get a hold of?
Correct.
Okay.
Limited supply, limited engagement. There's no hard and fast rule for it yet. The common question of pricing and quantity always comes up, and it's still being defined a little bit. I think, obviously a more limited number of quantity infers a higher value. But I think that we're interested in making sure that they are accessible to a degree. So not everything is going to be a one-of-one. Some things will be. We did some collections with Herding Cats, which had a few unique poster artworks where there were more supply of 10, supply of 20. And we've done instances where we paired the NFT with ticket sales. And so we've been able to distribute to ticket buyers a free NFT to start, which was a really common one to get people in and interested and see if they really do like it, rather than making them purchase the first one to see if they like it or enjoy it.
And once let's say, I get that NFT with my ticket, what would I do with that theoretically? I mean, I just kind of post it, on social, for everyone else, is it something to post on social media? Is it something I've seen people use it as their profile pictures? I think has been a popular thing from other NFTs that are out there. What do I do with that, since I can't really put it up on my wall to showcase for people to come over? What would you do with that, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, right now, a lot of it is the bragging rights associated with it, because they are limited supply. If you have some, if they can be a proof of you attending a performance. There are digital frames that you can expect an announcement from us on in the next few months, where you can display them in your home, and it's using the specific asset or file itself. So you are displaying your truly owned piece of artwork. And there's utility use cases that we're building in the near future that I can't give away too much on right now, but there's going to be digital and real life experiences that are going to be accessible or unlocked with ownership of certain NFTs. That's inevitable. So there will be some use cases. I think right now it's around owning it. It's around a percentage or royalties going back to production. That's a big thing we advocate on as well, which is, this is not like selling a coffee mug with a show logo on it, where if the show goes and wins a Tony and people want it and there's no more left, if you resell that piece, the production doesn't get any value from it. Our collectibles have a royalty function in them where productions are seeing revenue down the line as well. So it's a great way to support the show if you're a true fan and have that keepsake as well.
I agree with what you said earlier about this hybrid sort of experience. I was speaking with Jim McCarthy with Stellar Tickets a couple months ago. We had him on for a podcast, and he said the exact same thing, like as for live streaming, it's about enhancing the live event, creating these hybrid experiences and not replacing going in person. And I think that some of that pushback that I've noticed from the Twitter post that Playbill announced when the Wrong Man, when they had the press release for the Wrong Man, there was a lot of pushback, people saying, well, why do we need this? Nothing will replace the live person event. And I think everybody's in agreement with that. Nobody is actually trying to replace, the physical things that we can collect and the experience, but it is definitely, about creating that enhancement. And people love collectibles, collecting stamps isn't for everybody. they're, collecting coins. There are select people that like to collect these things. And I think that we're definitely coming into a new generation who want those collectibles. I kind of want to build off of what you mentioned a second ago about you have the royalties for the NFTs. And so that kind of makes me wonder, where does the ownership lie with that NFT originally? For a play or musical, does it lie with the playwright? Does it lie with the producer? And then when you get into licensing the shows, does MTI or Rodgers and Hammerstein, do they get parts of that royalty?
I live and breathe those questions every day. So I think the easiest analogy there is buying the coffee mug of the show does not give you any underlying rights of the show. And it's pretty basic IP copyright law, where owning an item that is a piece of licensed merchandise does give you access to the underlying IP. So even if I were to own a script and buy a script of a play, it doesn't give me the right to put it on the stage. It doesn't take anything away from the author in that respect. So when you own the NFT, you're owning that specific instance. That's why it works with NFTs as opposed to just posting on Instagram, because Instagram, it's centralized in one place, it's proliferated all through social, and it's everywhere. And so the IP is actually not as defined where it is and what it is, as opposed to an NFT, which has a specific serial code and file name. So that's how we get around that. When you're working with whose rights are it, it's who's ever licensed it for merchandising and to be able to create derivative work or merchandise and market from the piece of IP. So that's kind of where we start with the NFTs, and we go into using icons from the show. We go into creating original pieces of artwork as well. If other people are involved that have a strong hand in the artwork itself, we'll always look to include them. The easiest way for us has been making sure that the royalty goes back to the production as a whole, which is all encompassing, and they can divide that up amongst stakeholders as they see fit.
Right. So if you were to create an NFT of every character in the show, for instance, would the playwright then sort of need to give permission to the artist, the digital artist, for that ahead of time? What are the steps that are involved with that?
Yeah, so I mean, let me see. It's a really great question, and it's like 3 parts, but I'll try to answer it as simply as possible. So when producers are securing their rights, a lot of times they'll secure the rights to market and merchandise from the show. So with that comes the ability to create merchandise, which is inclusive of NFTs. So if an artist or an actor is depicted in it, they can be included in the royalty directly, or they could be compensated after the fact through the production, or it may not be required. That might just be the instance. And then it comes down to whether or not the producers, it's kind of on them to decide how they want to handle that. But as long as there's somebody who has, in writing secured the rights to produce a piece of merchandise from IP or from a show, they're able to create NFTs out of it. So we work with them. We have a contract or an agreement with them that, they certify that they have the rights to do this, and that we're going to create these assets with them and for them. And that's kind of how we go through that process.
It's not necessarily something that is completely out of a producer's wheelhouse in what they would normally do.
Yeah, that's where we found when we investigated some of these contracts that a lot of them were actually already covered for NFTs. We authored some language that was really explicit to it, and we have it as a template if producers want to use that, include in their contracts. But a lot of them are already covered if they're covering for merchandise.
And where would a producer find it? Do they find the digital artist, or would they go to Third Act and just Third Act sort of have the digital artist to create these?
Yeah, so that was like the second step that happened after I realized, I want to make this great marketplace that's equitable and great for the industry. And then when I got into conversations with producers, some of the first questions were, what is an NFT? What should it be? How much should it cost? What should it look like? Can it be show art? Can it be a blooper? Can it be behind the scenes? And the answer is yes. And it's a problem of opportunity where it's a blank canvas. It can be anything. So what I quickly did after that was build a bit of a studio offering, an NFT studio, where we can create the creative assets. We have artists, designers, 3D renderers, graphic designers on staff and roster that can produce the creative assets as well, so that if you have IP, we have all the means to take you from IP to NFT as a full kind of integrated solution.
So some of the criticism and pushback with NFTs, there's a lot of issues in it being eco-friendly, the amount of energy that it can consume. Are there sort of new ways that you've seen that we can be a bit more conscious of how we are using this energy? I know there's a lot of talk about, Ethereum 2.0, trying to use less energy, but I feel like I've been hearing about Ethereum 2.0 for quite a while now and still waiting for it. So how does Third Act make that a little bit more eco-friendly, or at least try to?
Yeah, that's a great question, and was one of the most important things we decided on, which was not to use Ethereum because of the ecological damage that came with it. NFTs are fun. They're new. There's a lot of hype around them. They're exciting. They have a real world benefit, not at the cost of the environment. That's silly. I think Ethereum and Bitcoin are some of the big offenders on that. And so after just doing a little bit of research, I found a network called Hedera Hashgraph, a leading enterprise blockchain and ledger provider. And after some research and vetting of networks out there, really quickly realized that they were probably the strongest partner for this. So they have nodes that are run by IBM, Google, T-Mobile. They just signed Ubisoft on last week. So have some pretty big council members. It's all public and transparent. And those are the people that are backing your assets and confirming transactions. So really big, reputable companies.
Is that a certain coin that's being used then to purchase these NFTs?
Yeah, so you're using a utility token that we issue that is effectively the same as a USDC. So I can tell you the process really simply of how it works, and then I'll tell you behind the scenes what happens. We've integrated Stripe, probably the most well-known and widely used payment processor on the internet. Pretty much every Shopify site uses that. We use Stripe as an on-ramp to issue you cryptocurrency tokens that are only usable within our ecosystem, Third Act tokens. We don't advertise them too heavily because for our theater audience, it doesn't really matter. The important thing is that we match them one-to-one with USD, so that if you ever want to withdraw funds from your account, you can withdraw them one-to-one USD and it's wired into your bank account, back into your card or your account. So Stripe is the on and off ramp, which is really important. In the middle is when the crypto happens. So that's when we issue you your utility tokens, and that's how we can list everything in USD and not have prices fluctuate when the price of any token fluctuates. One last piece I should note on the ecological side is that Hedera Hashgraph is, first of all, it's very fast. It's thousands and thousands of transactions per second, as opposed to Ethereum, which is dozens of transactions. And the ecological impact is around 10,000 times smaller than Ethereum or Bitcoin, and can even be less than a Visa transaction, Visa swipe, comparing that with a Hedera Hashgraph transaction.
So what you're saying is that it's mainly stored in-house, so that way you are able to control essentially how everything's being sold, and you're not using up any more energy than really just sort of what your computer already is normally doing. It kind of just does that on its own, a quick transaction.
Yeah, there's a really lightweight exchange, basically crypto to US or fiat exchange off the top to get you into the platform. And it's the same thing that gets you off, that kind of exchange. So just keeps everything in a language everybody's familiar with.
And then how do I receive that NFT? I mean, do you send me an email with an attachment to it, or is it in some sort of wallet? What does that look like after I purchase it?
Yeah, that's a great question. We've integrated the wallet right into your Third Act account. So it's made in the process of you making an account on the platform. So one click and it's asking for you to make a password for your wallet, which can be separate from your account if you want, like a different password. And that's where it's stored. So it's on your account, very similar to an Instagram or another social media site where you have your profile and your feed with your collection. And that's where it's housed and where you can show it off. Certainly you can kind of show it off on social media and whatnot, but that's where it's housed, where all the profiles kind of show off their wares, braggings happen and exchanges and whatnot. So a key piece I should bring up, because you brought up the wallet aspect as well, is that you truly do own your assets on Third Act, because the wallets are non-custodial. So as a platform, we don't back up your passwords. We don't have access to your passwords to your wallet. So there's never an instance where we could go in and move assets that you own. That's completely up to you, the owner or the fan.
Is that owner able to sell that NFT to somebody else through Third Act? Or does it go through any sort of, or can they sell it through a different third party? What does that look like?
Yeah, so right now you can be, we're just about to launch that secondary market feature where you're able to relist NFTs you buy directly from the productions themselves. And you could list it as a straight sale. So make me an offer of this number, or you could list it as an auction with a floor price and let the bidding begin. So that's kind of also a utility that comes out of it. And then on that sale as well, productions get a royalty on whatever that sale may be as well. So yes, in the instance where Stokes wins a ton of Tonys, it could become very desirable because there's only 3 of them out there. So
to kind of tie this together, what is your argument for a producer to get an NFT for their next show now and not wait for the next 5-10 years to when the public starts understanding it more and it becomes a bit more well known? What's your sell to producer for right now?
It's a great question. I think there was actually a really good quote on this that is, time in the market beats timing the market. I think if you're just waiting for a perfect moment, it will pass you and you will not even realize it until it's too late. Yes, you can get involved later. Will there be more competition? Absolutely. Will the market have moved to a different place? Absolutely. I think people might be looking for a different experience that at that point, or NFTs that were minted in the past may have utility in the future that new ones might not, or they may be more coveted because of that. So the first editions, those are the things that have a lot of value down the road and that people end up coveting, those things that kind of pioneered an industry. So I'm super open and welcoming if people want to get involved today or tomorrow. It's great either way. It's good for the industry. So I would say you could definitely launch with something small that matters to you and is contained as a collection. And then as things open up as well, as more down the road, there will be more opportunity. I think that there's going to be brand preferences that come up down the road as well, from producers who are known for making NFTs and start to develop relationships with audiences over time. There's a value in that, in having a relationship with a fan base through different mediums over time that can't always be created overnight. So I think that there's something to be said for that point as well.
And how do you see this for even smaller organizations, for nonprofit theaters, even for art galleries, museums? How are they able to get involved with this? Is it any different than the commercial world?
No, not really. I think it's a matter of creating something that you love or can stand by and want to say, like, this represents me or my work, and I believe in it. And you can be cut into the royalties, and then you kind of have your go-to piece of commemorative memorabilia. Whether you're, a musician in the orchestra, or you're a stage manager, or you're an actor, there is a place for you here if you want to get involved. And I would encourage everybody to take a look and feel free to reach out. We're very open around engaging with every aspect and every stakeholder in the industry.
And how can our listeners engage more with you? How can they find you, reach out to you?
Yeah, for sure. So we have an email that kind of goes to our group which is partnerships@thirdact.digital. You can check out thirdact.digital, the website. There's all the contact fields there, as well as we're very active on social. So Twitter and Instagram, our handles is _thirdact.
Well, thank you so much for being here, for talking with us and educating us a bit more on NFTs and the practicality that it has. And I think, as you mentioned, it is definitely the future, and people should get on it now, get that first edition piece, because it will definitely be coveted.
Yeah, I think I want to make sure as well. It's not just the future. I think it's a part of the future. I think we're part of a really big wave, and I don't think we're the only way forward, but I think we're part of this new way forward. So I'm excited to be contributing to it. Looking forward to some of the things we have that we're building that are going to be released pretty soon, and really grateful for the partners that we've had to date that believed in us. So thank you so much for having me on the show here. This has been a lot of fun, and I hope it was helpful. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Tech in the Arts podcast. Let us know what you thought by visiting our website, amt-lab.org. That's amt-lab.org. Or you can email us at amtlabcmu@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at Tech in the Arts, or on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn at Arts Management and Technology Lab. Thanks again for tuning in. If you found this episode informative, educational, or inspirational, then send this to another arts aficionado in your life. We'll see you for the next episode.